Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. Great to have you along this week, and it is a big one. If you like football, you're in luck because we've got plenty of football to talk about and show you this week. Plus, cross country. We'll bring you up to date on where we stand there. Andy Mason will join me before the show is over, but I delve right in this week with three of the victorious North Hagerstown Hubs from Friday night. I'm joined by Scott Neal, Aaron Horton, and Ben Stottlemyre. Welcome to the show, guys, and thanks so much for being here. Scott, let me start with you. Sophomore quarterback coming off a 31-6 win over Smithsburg. Would you say that this is the best game that the team has played this year, notwithstanding the victory, but just the overall team effort?
Overall, yes. Our offense was pretty good, and our offense did outstanding. So did our defense. They stopped us. Well, they stopped Smithsburg from keeping scoring like we've had, because past few games, we've had a lot of points scored on us. But Friday night, they stopped Smithsburg's offense, and that's what we needed. And then our offense, we just stepped up, started scoring points.
What's been the toughest thing? Because it seems to me that you've kind of taken this on your shoulders a little bit and said, hey, North Hagerstown football hasn't been where it's been in the past. We want to get it back there. I'm only a sophomore. I don't have a ton of experience playing quarterback, but I'll take my wounds a little bit here early on. I'll learn, and I'll kind of bring this team on my back and my shoulders to the forefront. Do you feel like that's starting to come around a little bit for you?
Yes. I mean, I knew from the start, from over the summer, when I went in and talked to Coach Jackson, that I wanted to be that man. So I stepped up to be that man. And you had those tough losses, and defense may not be producing, but on the offensive side, that's when I got to produce and have been producing. But Friday night is when we stepped up and actually started doing what we needed to do, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and no turnovers on Friday night, which was huge. And Aaron, Scott talked about that defense a little bit, and certainly you're the anchor of that, the guy in the middle, and it's amazing to me how many tackles you can make from the position that you play. But talk about that defensive effort a little bit on Friday with 5 sacks by the team, forcing 3 turnovers, holding Smithsburg to just 1 of 8 on third down conversions. What worked on Friday to make that happen for you?
What really worked is, we just went into the game. We had everybody had their different positions to where we had to take them out. The defensive line had the fullback. That's all we had to do all game. Outside linebackers had the quarterback, and we just went out there and we just had to do our jobs, and that's what we did.
What's your mental approach to your position, because you are the centralized man in the middle on defense?
Take up as many blocks as I can. Triple team is probably my main goal. If I can get that, then I'll open up holes for my linebackers.
And certainly on Friday night, everything worked to perfection, as Scott said, defensively, offensively. And Ben, on offense, have you ever had a night like that? 4 touchdowns, and just seemingly, a night where finally North Hagerstown was able to not just hang in a game early, but to really put a team away.
Yeah, that game really wasn't my night. The O-line was killing it. Then you get into blocks 5 yards down the field. Outside receivers were blocking outstanding. All I had to do was really find open space, and that's what I did. Now,
what will it take in your mind to keep things headed in this direction for North Hagerstown? Is this a big confidence booster? What's this in terms of being a launching pad for North Hagerstown?
Oh, it's definitely a big confidence booster for sure. We just got to go out there and keep working, and then just remember what the feeling feels like. We haven't had it in a while, so we just got to stay hungry and go get it.
Can you describe what that feeling was like to get the win? This is snapping a 6-game losing streak, but it seems much bigger than that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it definitely feels really good because, we've been putting the work in. Me and Scott over the summer, just staying with Coach Jackson and just working at it, and it finally pays off, so it's an amazing feeling.
Aaron, as a senior, you've seen some lean times, to put it mildly. To get that win on Friday night, how do you react after something like that?
It was shocking at first. I was like, dang, that's our first win after 6 games. It felt great. It was just nice. We huddled up. Everybody was smiling, cheering. It was a good feeling.
And from here, obviously you take it one game at a time, but does it inspire you to work even a little bit harder because now you see that work pays off?
Yeah, it really does. I hope the rest of the team, like, it gets into their mind that, like, it starts, like, today, and then, like, we show it off for Friday night again.
And Scott, is it tough for you as a sophomore to kind of, as you put it, be the man, or have you been able to, through the way that you have worked hard, have you earned the respect of others so that you can be in that position and get the help that you need?
I do think I earned that, but there's still when I have to work, I still have to push myself every day because I can't just sit there and let everyone else do it and think I'm on top. You know, I put myself at the bottom when I look at everyone because I have to push myself. When I want to be the man, I have to make sure everyone's doing their job, and then I got to worry about me doing the job because I wanted to be the man. So
with this team overall and coming off the win, what are you most proud of as far as the team is concerned?
I think of everyone doing their jobs. We've been assigned, we've worked, and we just had overall great practice. I think it was one of the best practices we've had in a long time through the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then it just all led into Friday night. So if we keep that rolling, I think it'll be perfect for us.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have looked at North and they said they're just a team that can't win, but I'm telling you what, the teams that you played in weeks 2, 3, and 4, pretty darn good teams.
Yeah.
So they sort of set you up in a big way for competition down the road, too. So best of luck to you guys the rest of the season and against Williamsport coming up on Friday. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll be right back after this. Bob Parcelletti joins me with more of Week 5's football in just a moment.
Champions are not merely born, they're forged in the crucible that is flag football. With equal parts turf, pigskin, and heart. That's why Buffalo Wild Wings donates to boys and girls clubs across the country to not only help thousands of kids learn about teamwork on and off the field, but to help them fulfill their destiny. To shred defensive lines, terrorize the secondary, and emerge bonded as true champions.
At Hagerstown Ford, we charge less, period. We're the largest Ford store in the tri-state area. #1 for only one reason. We charge less, period. Hagerstown Ford delivers. We'll bring your new ride to you and do the whole deal sitting at your kitchen table. Easy peasy. Get more for your trade, easy on-the-spot financing, and the lowest prices on the East Coast guaranteed. And if we can't beat their deal, we'll buy that car for you. Hagerstown Ford, we charge less, period.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. More football now from week number 5. Joined by Herald Mail insider Bob Parcelletti. Bob, welcome back to the show. Halfway home in the season at this point. We'll talk a little about where teams are coming up in the next segment, but we begin with Week 5's action in Boonesboro and Williamsport. First of all, two teams that have been polar opposites in that series. Boonesboro has absolutely owned the series. They beat Williamsport 34-28 on Friday night, Bob, but it really wasn't necessarily as close as the final score. Boonesboro a little sloppy at the end, making it a little closer, but Williamsport never really threatened to take the lead in that game at any point. After all, Boonesboro put a total of 14 points on the board in the game's first minute and 35 seconds.
Well, it was like the first 3 plays, I think, or like something like that. But yeah, I mean, they got 2 big runs. The thing that surprised me is what they were up like 21-0, and all of a sudden it's 28-20 at the half. You know, it just seemed like a conglomeration or a combination of Boonesboro mistakes and a little bit of stick-to-itiveness by the Wildcats. I mean, they made things happen to get back in that game and actually had a chance to tie it or win it in the end, I think.
Well, Williamsport hung in there, I'll say that much, and certainly kudos to them for doing so, because being down 20-0, certainly you could pack it in. They get a touchdown pass, they get a touchdown run, but then they give up a touchdown run to Boonesboro that again makes it a 2-score game. They answer right back on a kickoff return by Jake Arnone and pull within 1 score again. And then the key to the game really was late in the first half. They had a chance to tie it, and by inches, they missed tying the game on a touchdown pass, a potential touchdown pass. And after that, the second half, much less eventful. Boonesboro scores a third-quarter touchdown, makes it a 2-score game again, and then they turn the ball over late in the contest. Williamsport gets it back. They put points on the board to make it 34-28, which turns out to be the final. But again, just didn't get the feeling that Williamsport was threatening to win that game at any point. And for Boonesboro, some tremendous performances, career highs in rushing from Zach Grams, who goes for 248 yards, scores 3 of the touchdowns. Keegan Bowles, 183 yards, another touchdown. And then Brooks Keller defensively, 3 interceptions. I mean, that's one of those games that rarely comes along. And now in the all-time series, Boonesboro leads 30-16. But for Williamsport, I think what I was most disappointed with was that they didn't start better in a game where they certainly were bringing a lot of confidence in.
Well, and I think that goes both ways, though, because I think Boonesboro was a little more motivated after the big loss they had. And, they come out, I think they scored too quick and got maybe a little settled in, calm, whatever. But I get that feeling that after leading 21-0 and going in at 28-21, there was a lot to talk about at halftime, and they made some adjustments to kind of straighten things out. But Zach Grams had all that great yardage, but he fumbled a couple of times. And I mean, Boonesboro kind of shot themselves in the foot, and credit to Williamsport, they are playing much better, and they took advantage of those things to stay in the game and make a game of it.
Yeah, they did not fold, that is for sure. Now Williamsport will play right back at North Hagerstown this week, 2 weeks in a row, because that game had been moved because of field conditions to Mike Callis Stadium. So Williamsport at North coming up this Friday, and FSK at Boonesboro. FSK still without a win. Boonesboro now 4-1. Another team that's gone to 4-1 is St. James, and the Saints doing it in a big way. The week before, 67 points on the board with Tyler Raymond out at quarterback and Cole Menas in. Same formula this past Saturday, 68 points on the board this time, a 68-33 win for St. James over Potomac School.
Well, this one was a little bit different, though. Jalen Anderson went bananas with 5 touchdowns, or 6 touchdowns, I think it is. And he had a big game, too. So, I mean, they were able to run on this team some, and then you throw in John Meshi, and he gets a touchdown, and Omar Habway gets a touchdown, and they run back a couple of kicks or a couple of interceptions and stuff like that, and intercepted it. And they really dismantled the Potomac team that's been trouble for them in the past.
Yeah, but not on Saturday by any means. And Jalen Anderson is our Buffalo Wild Wings Player of the Week. You can't deny that. I mean, 22 carries, 255 yards, and as you said, half a dozen touchdowns in one game. Now the county leader in rushing touchdowns this season and in rushing yardage. And what a dynamic component he's become for that St. James offense.
Well, and it's kind of like the new toy for John Root, the coach, and he wanted to get a balanced run attack this year. And at times I thought they were, they looked like they were overdoing it to try to get the balance. But now it seems to be a flow, and Jalen's really responded.
Oh, no question about that. And a big test coming up this Saturday for St. James against 4-0 Murray. St. James will host that game on Saturday. Reginald Lewis over Clear Spring by a score of 38-0. Blazers continue to alternate losses and wins, now 2-3. They'll get 0-5 Smithsburg on Friday, which is very interesting because Smithsburg has never lost to Clear Spring, but Smithsburg comes in 0-5. Hancock also 0-5 now after a 61-0 setback to Washington. The Panthers' first 0-5 start since 2008 when they finished the year 0-9. They'll take on a winless seed team on Saturday. And Saturday night at McDaniel College in a game that was postponed and then moved to McDaniel, South Hagerstown loses to Westminster 41-19. A couple of 3-1 teams coming in who are in the race for a playoff spot in 3A West. This one a big one for South Hagerstown, and they got out to a 19-13 lead, but give up 4 touchdown passes, including 2 late in the second quarter, which turned that game around, and turnovers and just growing pains for the young Rebels really showing up.
Well, they gave up 27 points in the second quarter, and they gave up the final 28 points of the game. So, I mean, they really fell off. It was another problem with turnovers and some gaffes on the special teams that really hurt them. But, they found another runner in Jay Swanson, who ran for 156 yards and a touchdown. So maybe, that was one of the things they were missing because they lost all that speed last year. Maybe they found it the other night.
We'll see how they put that into play this Friday when they get back home after back-to-back road losses. They'll host 5-0 Tuscarora at School Stadium on Friday night. When you come back, Bob and I will still be here, and we'll be talking football. Mid-season reports coming up for all the schools in just a moment.
Have you ever felt like you were up to your neck in alligators when trying to buy a used car? They promise you one thing, but don't deliver.
The payment is $100 more than you said. As is? If it's such a great car, why is it as is?
I'm going to High-Low Auto Sales. See you later, alligator.
When buying a car, don't try to wrestle with alligators.
Let the pros at High-Low worry about your credit. Hurry into High-Low Auto Sales, where you always get a 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty. Go to highlawautosales.com today.
Hamilton Nissan made buying my new Nissan Rogue an easy decision. Every car they sell automatically comes with their Hamilton for Life program. With it, I get free oil changes, free tire rotations, free car washes, and Hamilton's limited lifetime engine guarantee. And this mom didn't pay a dime for that peace of mind. It completely took the worrying out of car buying, and it's keeping my family on schedule, and we have a lot of places to go.
The Hamilton for Life program, getting you where you need to go.
Welcome back to Inside Sports, and we go a little further in depth on football now as Bob stays with me, and we talk about where these teams are at the midway point. Overall, Washington County football 16-24 through week 5, 8 games below 500. We've got 3 games with records above 500, and then we've got 2 teams with records that are 0-5. So let's start with the team in Boonesboro, who is 4-1 right now. The one thing that you have to look at with Boonesboro, though, is that schedule hasn't been terribly tough. Outside of that Middletown game, 4 wins, and right now they're pretty much locked into a playoff spot because in 1A West, let's face it, outside of the teams who are ahead of them in Allegheny, Fort Hill, and Northern Garrett, there isn't a whole lot of competition there.
Outside of going into last week, only Clear Spring had wins out of the rest of them. So, I mean, that tells you something right there. But yeah, you're right. They haven't had the toughest go of it against some of the competition, and this week it won't be tough either because of FSK, unless they come up and surprise the world. But this team has a talent, a certain level of talent, and it could go very far in 1A. Some of the teams ahead of them are probably going to change a little bit because the 3 of them have to play against each other. So it might change some things and move Boonesboro up. If Manchester Valley decides to start winning, if Boonesboro or Williamsport keeps winning, if North keeps winning, and if they can beat North, all of that will be very important bonus points to help get them up the ladder.
Yeah, no question about that. And Boonesboro's just been such a quick start of this season, having outscored opponents 78-13 in the first quarter now, and running the football, really no team better. 373 rush yards per game. They've only attempted 35 passes this season and completed 13, so not a terribly balanced offense, but it hasn't mattered against some of these teams.
Well, they've done a great job running up the middle. In the Middletown game, it got taken away from them, and they had trouble going wide because Middletown had the side-to-side speed too. But outside of that, they've done a great job running up the middle and building everything off of that.
Now we take a look at St. James, who is 4-1 right now. We figured they'd be one of the better teams this year. Certainly their offense was not in question at all, averaging 47 points per game right now, but the defense markedly better than last year at this juncture anyway, allowing just 19 points per game.
Well, that was a concerted effort. John Root sort of took apart that defense a little bit. They switched to a 3-5 set, putting 5 linebackers in to try to get guys to come in from all angles to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. It's worked. There's been they had a little bit of trouble in it against Mercersburg. They had a little trouble starting out against FSK, but they've been able to make things happen. And part of it is they move their best athletes up to the middle line or the linebacking slots to really help the front line, and they've been able to kind of control things.
And St. James hasn't won 7 games since back in 2005, so looking good at potentially getting at least to that number. South Hagerstown started off so promisingly, and it looked like they were making some strides, and then just hit a tough spot in the schedule right now at 3-2, 2 straight losses at the moment to Linganore and Westminster respectively, and now they've got 2 5-0 teams back-to-back coming up in Tuscarora and Fort Hill.
Well, they started out 3-0, and I didn't give them a chance of doing that. and they come off with that great win against South Carroll in overtime. And Toby Pierre's not one to allow these kids to believe their press clippings or anything like that, but I think somewhere along the line they thought it might be a little bit easy. And all of a sudden they get into trouble, and the thing that's hurting them is one of the things that Toby usually tries to take care of, and that's the special teams. They've had trouble the last 2 weeks, and it's collapsed upon them. So they have to get a couple things straightened out to get back on the beam.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the youth is showing up, because lots of times with special teams, you don't want to put your top flight players out there on special teams, so you try to put some of those guys out and get them a little experience, and it's hurt them, especially the last few weeks. Williamsport at 2-3 right now, and as we said in the previous segment, coming into last game with a lot of confidence, but then playing a game they haven't, or a team rather, that they haven't played well against in Boonesboro. They suffered the loss there, but now they get a North Hagerstown team coming up this week where they could potentially get back on track. Frederick after that, and then South Hagerstown the following week. So for Williamsport, here's a chance to maybe put together some wins and at least, figure out a way to come up with a season here that is going to put them on the improve in year number 2 for Tim Small.
Well, they were very optimistic coming in. They really were looking at Kayvon Carter to have a big year. They're hoping for Jacob Ball to have a good year quarterbacking. I think Jake Arnone adds another dimension to that team because it gives them a really dependable receiver that they can throw to. And the three of them have worked well. The first couple of games, I know their defense played really well, and it must have played pretty well last week against Boonesboro in order to keep them in the game. So, I mean, they have flashes. It's just a matter of making it a constant.
Yeah, -10 has been their turnover margin in the losses, +4 in the 2 wins. So clearly that goes hand in hand with the W's and the L's so far this season. So that's a look at some of the teams who are performing well so far this season and the potential for the rest of the year. We'll see how it all plays out. Bob, always a pleasure to see you, and look for you next week.
Thanks a lot.
I'll be back right after this. I've got the latest on cross country with Andy Mason in just a moment.
Tony's Pizza in Williamsport has had the same simple philosophy since 1985. Start with simple products. Sauce from the best Italian tomatoes, the best cheese and dough made fresh every day. Then mix those with a great atmosphere, and you'll have the best dining experience you can find. Tony's is known for their pasta dishes, subs, pizzas, and specialty items like their Nutella Dots and the famous Crazy Tony. Simply put, they want to give the best food they can give to their customers. So stop in today to Tony's Pizza in Williamsport.
Welcome back to Inside Sports. We continue now with cross country, and it's time to bring you up to date on where things stand this season. Haven't seen Herald Mail sports editor Andy Mason since the preview show, Andy. Right. So we got a little ground to cover here, coming off the Don Stoner Invitational last Saturday at Smithsburg. Not the best of conditions there, very muddy. It was raining at times. On the girls' side, I guess something called SATs got in the way of full teams being there for Smithsburg and Boonesboro in particular. But still, the Boonesboro girls, even with their reserves for the most part running, still a very formidable finish.
Yeah, they got second, with just maybe 2 of their top 5 runners. Like you said, the SATs, there's this big rivalry, Boonesboro girls, Smithsburg girls, going back to last year. They went 1-2 in the state, 1-2 at county region states. But this year, everyone was looking forward to seeing them going head-to-head, which they've done a few times, but neither team has been at full strength. You had the Interstate Classic, the season opener out at Clear Spring. Smithsburg girls won that small school girls title, but Boonesboro was missing 2 of its top 5. And then you go to the Rebel Invitational, and those were another ACTs that day. Yeah. So Smithsburg was down a few, Boonesboro beat them there, and then both teams were missing a lot of runners on Saturday. So it's really tough to tell. But yep. But we're going to see them, everyone, this race against each other a lot soon. I mean, this weekend's the Wildcat Invitational. I believe everyone in the county is going to be there at Williamsport. The following weekend, you got Frank Kaiser at Boonesboro. And then we go right into county regions and states.
Yeah, county's coming up October the 27th. I think one girl in particular that sort of stood out to me in the county on Saturday will be Erica Metz of South Hagerstown, who finished 4th overall.
Oh yeah, she's one of the top girls in the county, and as we were saying earlier, I'm not surprised by that. I first saw the name at the Crumpy's Donut 5K in August here, road race here in Hagerstown, and she was running right up there with some of the best girls in the county, beat some of them, which she's doing, she just sort of carried that over. A first-year cross-country runner, but clearly has a lot of talent.
Now, with some of these girls not competing in some of these races to this point, is that a source of concern at all? Does that matter? Or
you know, some people would say the rest is maybe not a bad thing. I mean, there's so many meets. It's really hard to stay up for all these meets. A lot of kids get burnt out at the end of the year if you're, you know, you train hard all summer and then you got the Interstate Classic and it's the biggest deal in the world because it's the first meet, but there's still over 2 months to go in the season and it's really hard, you know, to keep that momentum going for a full season. So at this point, missing a meet in October, I don't think it's going to hurt you at all.
Well, Don Stoner Invitationals, as we said last Saturday, at Smithsburg, and Smithsburg's Will Merritt just continues to show why he is certainly the #1 guy in the county.
Oh yeah, in the state in 1A. He's in a league of his own. No public school kid's going to touch him, barring something hugely unforeseen. The rest of the way, I'm saying, at least in the county and in 1A state. The second best runner in the county is William Jones from Goretti. And Will, I believe they've raced 2 times. And Will's undefeated against him this year. But if anyone has any kind of chance in Washington County to beat Will Merritt, it's William Jones. But the odds are against that.
Well, nobody had any chance on Saturday because Merritt went right to the lead and never gave it up. But it was kind of a strange place that he was coming from leading into that race because he had finished 6th in his previous race, obviously against 390 other runners at the Oatlands.
The Oatlands Invitationals, I mean, got to be one of the most prestigious competitive cross-country meets on the East Coast. I mean, it's just loaded with talent. The top 2 kids in the country last year both won races there. You know, it's getting 6th there is actually very impressive. It's probably happened. I can't remember another county kid placing as high as 6th there.
Yeah, just a little different not to see Will Merritt.
And he was in it.
Top.
I believe he was only about 20 seconds off the, you know, he could do better, sure. I mean, he could have been 2nd or 3rd.
Well, he says that'll be a source of motivation going forward. So as if he needed any more
Will's looking at the Foot Locker Northeast Cross Country Championships in New York City Thanksgiving weekend. And I believe that's 2 weeks after state. So his season still has, you know, a way to go. You know, you get top 10 there, you go to nationals. And I know that's it's a very lofty goal for him to have, but I'm sure that's a goal.
Well, Ben Hardings of Boonesboro finished 2nd, leading the Warriors boys to a team title at the Don Stoner, with 4 of them placing in the top 14.
Yeah, they're good, and they have interchangeable parts. I mean, Ben Hardings could be their 5th runner one day. You know, you have John Poling, Donovan McClellan, all these great. They're very deep, you know, and they just go back and forth. They're fighting each other, and they do pretty well when they do that. And they seem to be at full strength right now. I know they had a few injuries earlier in the year. At least Donovan McClellan did, an ankle injury, but they're looking really good. I'm calling them the favorite to win another Washington County title this year.
Is it even more impressive to win on a course that was set up the way that it was on Saturday with all of the mud and the murk and all of that?
Sure, but you know, everyone has the same conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, if it benefited anyone, it would be Smithsburg. I mean, it's Will Merritt's home course.
Right.
He knows every inch of it, I'm sure, like the back of his hand. So that definitely helps. But, you know, everyone's got the same conditions.
Yeah.
Now, some people are better in the mud. So, you know, if you're a good mud runner, it's going to help, you know, it's your day to shine.
So from the county, we had Will Merritt 1st, Ben Harding 2nd, and then Timmy Whitmer of South Hagerstown 3rd. And Whitmer was 2nd for a long stretch of that race, and then Hardings came up, took 2nd. Whitmer finishes 3rd. Is this a pretty good representation of what we might be seeing coming up at counties?
I mean, Will Merritt's going to win the county title, again, barring something unforeseen. And then you take like 2nd through 6th places. I mean, you just don't know. You got Timmy Whitmer, his teammate Charlie Pandolfi. You got the 2 North kids, Brandon Gassaway and Nate Neely. Those guys are really good. You know, you got all those Boonesboro kids we just talked about. You know, it's gonna. I don't know how they're gonna finish. Anything can happen.
Yeah, well, we will find out. As I said, October 27th, of course, city championships will have been contested by the time this show airs. That will have been this Tuesday. Andy, I know you're a little under the weather this week, but thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I got through it.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you in better health later on in the season. As for you, thanks so much for watching this week. Hope everyone is doing well out there, and we look forward to seeing you next week when we come back and do it again on The Inside.
Hey, your sisters and your brothers, your haters and your lovers, you gotta get up in the streets